This is how watching Landon has gone. Us just standing here.
Watching.
Has this made you uncomfortable at any point?
Yes.
So that's the billet that you just made?
The billet that I just made. It is 9 layers of steel, 5 layers mild steel, and 4 layers of jackhammer bit that I forged out.
Oh, so you already took the jackhammer bit and flattened it out.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, this
out.
doesn't look like jackhammer bit.
Flattened it out and ground it off so it's all shiny.
You squared it up and you put sides on it, or no? No, you didn't.
No, I just welded.
So this is the setup.
So once this gets hot, I'm gonna have somebody hit this flatter, it's called, with the sledgehammer that you have in your hand.
Oh, okay.
To get rid of any gaps that are in between the steel, since it's jackhammer bit that I forged out, not very
So
flat.
you call that a flatter?
Yeah, because it makes things flatter.
Sure.
It's actually what it's called, though.
Yeah. That makes sense. Are you gonna hold
Right
it
on
way
the
out
top.
there?
Yeah, I'm gonna hold it
You
way
should
out
just
here.
hold it right here. That would be easier.
It would be easier, but my hand would get really hot. I would turn the forge up hotter, but it'll oxidize faster that way, and we don't want it to oxidize. That'll
So right
hurt
now
it.
you're intentionally warming it up slower than you would normally?
Yeah,
Are you gonna put flux onto that at all?
yeah, after I hit it.
Clean your oxides out?
It has to be hot before it'll stick onto it.
For the flux. Oh.
Right.
Yeah, because you use borax.
Yeah.
What's the melting point of borax?
Not enough to burn your fingers.
Do you speak from experience?
I've touched metal when it's that hot before, and it's hot enough to burn you.
Okay.
It should be good.
Alright, so that just takes out all the
Little cracks, and then this will seal it up.
and that'll prevent it from oxidizing between the layers, which will stop you from welding it.
Right. It looks wet in some spots. It's not hot enough right now.
It looks almost like
No.
sticky.
You know that it's forge welded when you can beat on the sides without it spreading apart.
Yep, so just that one layer that's darkened.
Yeah, just that one.
Yep. So if it wasn't forge welded, those layers would be separating right now really bad.
Yeah.
Wow. That one's totally free. That's crazy.
That's never happened before where I've had to take a layer off. I just didn't weld it very good with the welder. And it's just a mild steel piece anyway. So I'm not very worried about it.
So what are you making?
Not quite sure.
Problem?
Yeah, it didn't weld.
Oh.
Right there.
Oh yeah, I see.
So we might end up cutting it off
Cutting it off at that point.
at that point, yeah. We'll see. The rest of it looks good. So when the camera died, we had a partially welded chunk of steel. And so we drew that out into a bar.
Yep.
And then ground it up and found that there was a delamination where it didn't weld.
So delamination
Side.
is just where the two layers of metal just didn't
Stick. Yeah. They delaminated.
Yep, I guess that makes sense.
So I cut out those spots, and this is what we're left with. 1 inch by 3/4 inch maybe. Chunks that I welded together, and we're gonna stick it in and see if we can weld them up.
And how many layers were left on those from yesterday?
Should be 8 each, so now 24.
Okay.
I think we'll just draw that out and make a knife out of it.
Less sparks now because the metal's not as hot. Is that correct?
And we haven't put any flux on there.
Oh, that's right.
Really what sparks the most.
What are you making?
I think.
I knew it. He's making a thing.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna take the bar that we have right now and draw it out, and then twist it, and then cut that in half, and then take this one, flip it over, and stack it so that it's twisted the opposite direction as that one.
Yep.
And then use that to make the blade.
So that'll create a really interesting pattern going all the way down through the blade, or should, in theory.
It'll also make it stronger to have those layers twisted together if it was to break.
Yep.
Since they're twisted together, they won't really, there's no chance of it falling apart.
Have you tried this before? Pulling it out?
No, I've only made 2 Damascus knives and they're just flat.
Seems like Damascus is kind of a hard thing to make. Wow, that is cool looking. Yep, that looks really cool. That looks pretty good.
It's a little bit like a 32nd of an inch bigger.
On the bottom?
On the bottom.
It's not very much.
Not very much, but when we line them up, there'll be that much difference that we have to grade off. I think I'll just leave the handle attached and put the other ones on top of it or on the sides of it.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
That way I won't have to cut as much off. Take our bar, which right now, after we're done with these next steps, it's gonna be kind of like that with the twists.
Yep.
We could take another bar, and forge that to a point, and then take another bar and put it on like that. Just like a piece of rebar or leaf spring or something.
Yep.
And forge weld that on, and then draw that down into the handle tang. I don't think it's worth it.
I'm just gonna make a smaller knife.
Yeah.
Safety glasses and welding helmet?
Yeah.
That's fancy. We'll use our eyelashes. Good.
How many hammer handles have you broken in the past year?
5? I don't know. Probably like 2 or 3. But they were handles that I made out of wood that wasn't very good. So I just ground off the welds and isolated the stuff for the tang. throw it in the forge.
So the tang has been drawn out further, and Landon has heated it several times and shaped the blade further. But now at this point, explain what we're gonna do next.
We're gonna flatten the blade out, and then I'm gonna forge the bevels into it. Make less grinding and not waste as much material. It's very important to hit it as flat as possible.
Okay.
Because it will make one edge of the flatter go down deeper.
Yep.
If it doesn't get hit directly. So you don't need to worry so much about hitting it hard as you do flat.
Okay.
Normally you would bend it forward a little bit first, but I didn't know how I would do that with this on there. So I skipped that.
You would bend it forward?
Bend it forward because when you stretch that out, it pulls the knife back.
Oh.
Bends it a little bit. You might be able to see that that's not flat right there. It's fairly flat.
So you would curve the blade forward a little bit intentionally, knowing that it's going to straighten back out as you flatten it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm just going to make it wider. Still quite thick. So that's 3/16 about.
3/16
Maybe
to a quarter.
7/32. I'm basically just going to cast a block of copper. It's not going to be very fancy.
So this is a wood piece that you made?
That's a wood piece that I made from a different knife, so I don't know if they'll use that.
Because you could just press this down into the...
Yeah, and
if
then
the sand was damp.
The basic shape.
I suppose you don't want your sand too damp, because
It's not damp at all.
that would cause other problems. Well, in my mind I was like, oh, it should be wet so it sticks together well. But I guess if you're dumping molten metal on it, you really don't want very much moisture in there.
No, you want just enough to where you can take a handful of it and it'll stick together.
So that's about
really
right.
well. It's a little bit less than it should be since it's falling apart. We're just going to try and get a block of copper in the rough shape of it.
So this is potentially the last heat before
Normalizing, yeah.
before normalizing. You think this is going to be the normalizing heat?
Yeah, it definitely is. Unless I find something that...
So how hot do you heat it? Do you heat it till it's glowing, as if you were going to
Probably not
flatten it out?
terribly hot. You heat it to its critical temperature, whatever that is. About when it stops sticking to a magnet.
Oh, that's right.
Wow. Still sticky. The tip was fine, but
You got to get it all the way down to the tang or through the tang?
probably through the tang. I'll keep sticking it to the magnet while it cools so you can see when it changes.
So it's critical
Might be
point.
yeah, it's
So
slightly-
the atoms of metal must be able to move a little bit more freely within the piece, so they don't care which way the magnet pulls on there. Pulls.
Holes on there.
Yep. So now it's magnetic again.
Yeah, you can see, if you get it in the right lighting, a little bit of the Damascus up there.
It's quite a bit bigger actually.
Yeah, almost an inch longer. At least an inch.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of this like ground off.
The tang is
It's
also
flat.
long enough. isn't it? Or is it
Should
about?
be. But since we have a longer blade, you can make a longer handle too.
Yeah, because the proportions don't get all hideous. Like those little kitchen paring knives, the handle's like this long and the knife sticks out like that far. They just look so funny.
Yeah, they're
I was basically just taking off the scale with this worn out 60 grit. So,
Yep.
now I'm gonna switch to a 36.
Looks like he's ready to go grocery shopping. I don't know.
I'm trying to get this
That
flat.
piece. Okay.
And that's pretty good on that side. And then there's a lot of grinding to do on that still. But the 36 grit moves a lot of metal. I'm gonna do a Scandinavian grind, the sharp.
they're
So-
sharp.
But it looks like we have a little bit of a problem right there.
Like maybe one slight delamination on one partial layer.
Yeah.
It's looking really nice though. It's still very dull though. So what's a Scandinavian grind?
When you grind one bevel on it,
Yep.
fairly close to the edge. If you compare that to a regular, this is like a hollow grind, so it's actually a wheel that they ground it on.
Yep, and they
So
did
that's
both
slightly
sides.
rounded, and then they ground another edge. They ground an edge on the bevel, so it's two different angles.
Okay.
If you look at the tip, you can see the difference.
Oh, yep.
That makes a thin edge with it, and it'll stay sharp fairly well. But these are a lot sharper
Because
I
it's
think-
just one angle.
because it's just one angle.
Lots of grinding.
Yeah.
Back to the daily grind.
Yep. So another 2 minutes have passed. Actually, a lot more than that.
Over 2 hours.
Are you kind of finished grinding it now?
I'm to the point where I can go to the files. I'm gonna clamp it in the vise and use some files, so I'll have more control then. And then we'll harden it.
Feel how smooth it is. Like it feels so professional. So now we'll just file a while. Pretty quick, it should be looking good. So how hot do you want to heat it before you...
Critical temperature.
Okay. Which we know from before is really hot. So you're gonna harden it by heating it up to the critical temperature and
Yes,
then quenching it.
Yep.
And then over lunch, yeah, over lunch you'll put it back, well, you put it in the oven.
Yep.
Does it matter which meal you eat while you wait for it to temper?
Spaghetti is ideal.
Spaghetti's ideal. And so you're quenching it in oil instead of water.
Right.
And the purpose of that is to cool it down slower.
A little bit slower, yeah.
That doesn't smell very good.
Well, it's not the gold, it's not the...
What happens if you drop it in there?
We get sad.
You get sad.
Have you dropped things in there before?
No.
Very good.
I've dropped things in the bigger 5-gallon bucket of oil, but never in that tube. Hopefully it didn't bend.
Because if it bent at this point, you would have to still reheat it to straighten it back out?
No, we could kind of unbend it when we temper it. Or depending on which way it's bent, you can set it on the anvil, and that'll cool down the one side faster than the other.
Oh,
But it's still
still pretty
fairly
hot.
right now. Pretty straight, and you can see the Damascus pattern.
And you're gonna,
I'm not gonna file on it.
what are you gonna do?
Because right now it's fairly hard compared to the file. I'm not gonna try, because I don't want to wreck the file.
cleaning off the burnt oil there.
Yeah, and a little bit of scale that's on there. I
Sound
think it's
right?
hard. I probably could have quenched it in water since it's mild steel and high carbon steel. Thank you.
It's fun to watch you clean off that top layer because it cleans off so easily. So we didn't get any footage of it being in the oven, but Landon put it in the oven for over the course of a spaghetti meal, so like 30 minutes or so.
Sand it with 220. And we wait for 2 hours.
2 hours?
No. Like a half an hour.
That looks pretty neat.
Yeah.
You happy with it?
Yeah. That fizz up. Alright, touch the acid. Right now.
Looks pretty awesome.
So there are markings on this cup.
Yep.
For the different flavors of epoxy, which are
Cherry and butterscotch.
cherry. Oh yeah, I thought it was raspberry.
It tastes
Raspberry and caramel.
Raspberry and caramel are going to be mixed together and then poured into this.
Along with
Well, you can
maple
explain it.
flavoring. A piece of maple. So this is the original design. And we're also going to add some copper mica powder.
Items coated with it will become permanently preserved and protected for your enjoyment throughout a lifetime. So the mold is made out of cardboard that is the
Shoebox
slippery kind.
cardboard, yeah, the slippery kind of shoebox cardboard. And this is about the consistency of honey.
molasses.
Well, yeah, we can just add more
You can always add more, take some out. Raspberry.
raspberry stuff.
Is there any reason in particular you put the mica powder in between the two layers?
Make it easier to
Just
mix.
to make it easier to mix. A little bit of this goes a long ways.
The mica powder.
Is this the pan?
Did you put too much in? I don't think so. I think that looks fine.
Yeah. But I thought we were gonna need a lot more than that.
Yeah, you didn't add that much.
No, like a
An eighth of a teaspoon.
probably, yeah.
So I was imagining that you would have the tang go directly into the liquid epoxy. Is that what you're going? That's not what you're gonna do though.
No, because wood is not a liquid.
Okay. So I thought
it's
you were
gonna
gonna
be a
drill a hole
composite
through that,
handle.
and then
Oh,
that's what I
suppose
thought
that
you were
would-
gonna do. And then the epoxy was gonna fill in the hole along the bottom.
I'll just pour epoxy into the hole once we make it, then shove the knife in. I don't know if I should like run the stick through it to make some interesting designs, or if just pouring it'll be.
Yeah, you should.
Well, it has like the pour, like a bunch of layers from pouring it.
That looks really pretty.
You can see the bubbles coming up to the top, popping.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing.
Warning. Read all these instructions.
Yeah.
Alright, so last time we looked at this, it was still wrapped in cardboard. But Landon has taken it and just sanded off the outer layer. And so that's the first look at approximately what this is going to be like.
Other than it won't have those lines.
Those
I
lines.
just drew around the tang so I know kind of the shape that we want on the inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll know how to align the drill. Over here I have the piece of copper for the guard that I've kind of roughly shaped, and I've marked out the two spots that I'm gonna drill with an 1/8 of an inch drill bit.
This is that copper piece that you cast.
Yep.
Is the copper drill pretty good since you annealed it somewhat?
Yeah. Even if it wasn't, it's copper, so it's gonna drill pretty easily compared to steel.
So you made a file out of a welding rod? Is that this one here?
Both of those little ones are ones that I've made.
That's really cool. So what did you use to get the sharp ridges?
One of these.
Ah. Sure.
Hit it with a hatchet.
So this would so this wouldn't work though if you were trying to file anything else, really.
It wouldn't work to try and file steel or carbide or anything harder than mild steel. And that's some...
That's bandsaw blades?
Yeah, I broke the bandsaw blade the other night and made a, like, welded together.
That looks...
The MIG welder. And
that looks pretty effective, actually.
Brooch, it's called. That's for the wood.
You're just gonna drill another hole in the center of there and then use that file you made out of the welding rod to take out the central material. Time has passed.
2 hours later.
It's 2 hours.
No.
On the dot.
10 minutes. Cool.
You've been working pretty fast. I should have videoed that whole thing.
The problem with this is that I only cut one set of teeth, so it's wider down here than it is where the teeth are. So I have to wobble it.
Oh, sure.
I'm gonna put a handle on this.
This has been a very interesting way to experience something, because normally I'm doing whatever I'm working on or whatever I'm videoing.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different when I'm just watching someone else do all of the work. Wow, that is very nice. I bet that'll make it a lot more pleasant.
It will.
A lot more easy to handle.
Anyway, so you just do this for like
2 hours.
2 hours, and then it's perfect. And then the knife is done. No. That looks pretty good.
It's pretty close.
This is how watching Landon has gone. Us just standing here.
Watching.
Has this made you uncomfortable at any point?
Yes.
Reese's honest.
See it?
I think the Damascus looks much improved with that blue tape over it.
Yeah.
Look, there's a slight delamination right here. Is that gonna be okay? The handle is like purely patience and precision. Well, depending on what the handle's for. So epoxy has been applied and the pieces were poked together.
Yeah.
So we and our fears were put to rest, and overnight the epoxy did harden that Landon just added. So that's good, because that would have been really not fun if it was not working. And that was the test to see if the metal was harder than wood. Passed with flying colors. You gotta press these layers together good so there's no delamination.
Mm-hmm.
So which belt are you gonna wear today?
This one.
Oh, I see metal. Copper wire. So Landon has finished.
Yesterday I asked him. What does that mean? Yeah, and like what is it?
Hope it doesn't fall out.
Ah, it's really comfortable.
That's good.
It's a really good size.
I don't know what use it for?
A knife like this.
Yeah. I'm looking at.
For looking at? Shaving your arm hair?
Shaving your arm hair.
So, do you know how many hours you have into it?
No.
Rough estimate?
20?
20?
Probably more.
So this knife that Landon makes in this video is like one of the very first Damascus knives that he's completely finished. He had done some other experimenting with Damascus, but since making this knife, he has made several very nice knives using different patterns of Damascus. I think he's done ladder Damascus and mosaic Damascus, and it's just really neat to see the improvements that he's made with the knives that he's been making. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the process. I didn't really start this video intending to make a long video about Damascus knives, but I just thought the process was so interesting that I actually ended up recording probably close to 6 hours of footage while he was making the knife, but I have been able to condense it down at least some. But there's just so much work that goes into actually making it that it still ended up being a pretty long video. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more stuff like this, then I'll try to convince Landon to start a YouTube channel. Anyway, talk to you later. Good work.
Thank you.